So in this video, we're going to talk about the equipment that your honeybees will live in, make their home, and we're going to start with the hive stand area. The foundation where you locate your bees is just as important as the hive itself. So people do a variety of things. The Troop 55 made the decision to install pavers that they put sand and gravel foundation underneath. The reason why it's important to have a really strong foundation is this hive, once it is completely full of bees, wax, and honey, will weigh a couple hundred pounds. Each of the frames filled with wax and honey is about 10 pounds. So we want a flat, sturdy, foundation for our hive that won't move or shift in events of rain or things in that event. So you can get creative. You can do round logs. I've seen people build custom metal platforms and all those kinds of things so that their bees fit neatly into their landscape. So this allows the farmer here to get behind the hive for mowing, and at the same time, because they went ahead and did the hard work of putting in the pavers, they won't have a lot of growth under the hive, which is helpful. So this is your hive stand. You want slightly off level so that if there is rain or water, it will run off and away from your hive. So get creative with your hive stand. Sometimes people will use log rounds or something of that nature. Your requirements are that it can hold several hundred pounds. You're going to want to consider the working height of the top of your hive. The Langstroth, or the stacking boxes, can get quite high, and you have to be able to lift really heavy thing at that weight. So the height considerations, you want it to be very stable, just like these pavers are very stable, and then slightly off level so that if you have rain, it will run off. So now that we've talked about the hive stand, let's get into the hive itself. This is the bees' home, and we will be installing live bees into these beautiful top bar hives that Troop 55 put together here this winter. And one thing you'll note is that this equipment is painted white exclusively on the outside. None of the internal surfaces are painted. We leave those with the natural wood. The white paint on the outside is used for reflecting heat and to weatherproof the box, but we want to leave all of the inside surfaces unpainted. So this part of the hive is called this is a telescoping lid. The reason it's called telescoping is it has a box that the top of the hive fits into, and it slides over, creating sort of a umbrella cover to keep weather out of our hive. It's metal on the top, again, to reflect heat, and also to give the bees a barrier where they don't have Mother Nature encroaching on the top of their hive. So this is our telescoping lid. The hive stands on 4 legs, and here in the front we have the entrance with this has a dial type entrance reducer where we can have our entrance completely open so that the bees are free to come and go. We have closed but allowing for ventilation to protect a new hive, like we will when we first install our 3-pound package of bees. Then we have a reduced entrance here so that this is one bee width, and it makes it so that only one guard bee can protect that size of opening. And as we go through the season, we'll change the size of the opening as the hive becomes stronger and stronger. So that is the hive entrance with a dial type entrance reducer. So in our top bar hive, we have, I think, 20 top bars here that have this leading edge, which has been treated with chemical-free beeswax. You just rub it on each side and the leading edge, just like that. And what that does is when we put our 3-pound package, when we install them in this hive, they'll smell the beeswax here, and it will let them know that this is a good place to start building. So when we first put our 3-pound package in, we're going to want to make the bees' home as small as possible. You really want your bee population to really fill up the cavity that they're living in. That way they don't have to clean or guard excess space that a growing colony may not be able to manage. So when we install our 3-pound package here, we'll give them about 5 frames worth to start with. So so we'll stack up our top bars, and then we'll put in our divider, which will reduce the size of the hive, but still allow us storage space for extra equipment or, you know, beeswax, anything like that. And we'll keep our colony of honeybees on this side. So on each top bar, the bees will start leading edge, and they will build natural comb into a trapezoid shape that will fill then this cavity. So one of the reasons why we elected to teach a top bar focused class here in Great Falls is the top bar is really a great option for backyard beekeepers from a ergonomics and management and equipment required perspective. When you work with a top bar, you don't have to have a lot of the excess equipment that folks that work with the Langstroth or the stacking type do, like the honey extractor and a spinner and all of that kind of stuff. And when you are ready to harvest honey and you have a filled comb, and I'll show you an example of that as we get later into the class, you just cut it off with a kitchen knife, and then you put this back into the hive, and just like we rubbed it with the beeswax, the bees will utilize that comb again to rebuild. So just as a quick overview, you know, the top bar hive is really simple. It's geared to give the bees movable comb, which is required by the USDA, that you have movable comb in your hive so that they can be inspected, and then start them with a small amount of space. We're going to start our 3-pound packages off with just 5 top bars, and then we'll put the remaining equipment to store in the vacant area here in the back. So this is a top bar hive. It was built by Troop 55 here in January, and is getting ready for bees that are coming in May. So now we're going to talk about stacking equipment, Langstroth style equipment. You can Google his name. He was a monk who invented a style of beekeeping equipment that made all of the frames, number 1, inspectable, and number 2, interchangeable, so that it made beekeeping so that it accommodated the farmer and provided them with a scalable model. I'm not a huge fan of Langstroth style equipment for a variety of reasons for the backyard beekeeper. I feel like the top bar is more ergonomically secure for most people. There's no lifting of, you know, boxes that can weigh upwards of 100 pounds once they're full of bees and wax and honey. So it's approximate, the top bar is at approximately waist height. So you're not bending over or lifting and twisting, which is where a lot of back injuries occur. So we're gonna talk about the Langstroth style equipment just so you know why your beehive looks different than the ones that you see on the highway when they're, you know, transporting them to go pollinate almonds. This is called a nuke box, and it is part of the Langstroth style. So you can stack these little nuke boxes on top of each other. This is the lid, and nuke boxes are used to a great degree in breeding programs because they're very easy for the bees to manage. They have the Langstroth style comb versus the top bar comb. The Langstroth has a rectangle that the bees fill down to, and anybody that's kept bees watches that their bees naturally draw out like a trapezoidal shape, and so it forces them, in order to stabilize the comb, to pull it into these corners. And some people don't think that may be as advantageous. This is, oh my goodness, this is a Langstroth style comb that is full of capped wax or capped honey, and it's all cured. So this is can just be, you know, taken into the kitchen and eaten with a spoon, and it is completely unfiltered. And this is the kind of honey that's great for people when they have pollen in an area, especially if it's coming out of your own backyard. Then you're getting your local pollen and everything in your honey. So again, this is a nuke box. They contain 5 frames, and they're part of the stacking type of equipment that is certainly available to you. You can Google Langstroth, but is not my favorite stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about selecting the location where you're going to put your hive. When I was out here on February 15th with a bunch of the young men in Troop 55, we selected this area here because we wanted to, number one, find a place within the natural landscape of the farm here that we can have easy yard management, so the tractor can pass behind on this side. And then also, again, with our, you know, the pavers that were used as a hive stand, it creates a barrier underneath so that you don't have growth up here, so that you're bringing your weed whacker and doing it under your hive, which is safe to do. It's just not the most fun task. So we wanted to make sure that the hive entrance here is facing the eastern morning sky with as little interference with like a tree line as possible. So that is the eastern morning sky, and when the sun rises, it will come up and it will hit the front of the entrance here and start to warm the hive up as the bees start to get active and ready for a day of foraging. So we want to find clear view of an eastern sky, and that's where you place your hive stand.